Most of you by now have heard that Trump had an MRI done last month in October. 6 months prior, he had a physical. And here recently, Governor Tim Walz out of Minnesota came out on his social media and said, release the MRI results. And I'm like him, yeah, release them. If there's no issues, release them.
Questions about Donald Trump's mental acuity continue to be raised this morning by doctors and others across the internet after Donald Trump himself said he did not know which part of the body his MRI examined. He said that he would release the MRI because it was as perfect as the perfect phone call that got him impeached. But when you go in for an MRI, you know, the doctor tells you what they're examining. Trump says he doesn't know.
There's reasons for us to be concerned. This is a guy that randomly says the airspace over Venezuela is closed. He's ruminating on if you could win a nuclear war. Look, this is a serious position. It's the most powerful position in the world. And we have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. And at the same time, he's not solving any of the problems. So I'm deeply concerned that he is incapable of doing the job.
Looks like Mr. Orange's cognitive abilities keep declining over and over, and we see that in the way sometimes he literally answers questions that are asked to him. But of recent, I think Trump has taken more than close to 2 or 3 medical examinations, and it has raised quite a lot of questions. But not just that, like I mentioned, his cognitive abilities seem to be declining over and over. It looks like sometimes he's having a very hard time to concentrate, so as a result he keeps sleeping and taking naps over and over. Over the weekend of Thanksgiving, when he went to his golf course, there are pictures that were leaked as well where he was looking not so well. But he took an MRI of recent, an MRI test, and while he was, I don't know if that was a press conference, but he was heading somewhere and they asked him what was the MRI for, and he said he does not know. And that raises a lot of questions. That is why now there are so many people that are demanding, they want to know what was that MRI for and what are the results. I feel like people want to get more transparency to know if their president is capable and he's okay. He doesn't know what was tested when an MRI is actually a very specific test, right? And some of the people that they are asking him about pardoning, of course, he doesn't know. And then, of course, he confuses the MRI test with IQ test and comprehension test. And so a lot of people are coming out to demand him to release the results. We are going to look at some of the reactions of Americans. Besides them demanding for Epstein files, they also want to see this. We are going to have to look at that part as well. Plus, we are going to have to look at what Caroline Leavitt has had to say and what she released, and we judge and see if this is legit or not. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to like and share. And yeah, I'll be back with more.
Well, here we got a guy on Thanksgiving where we spent time with our families, we ate, we played Yahtzee, we cheered for football or whatever. This guy is apparently in a room ranting about everything else. This is not normal behavior. It is not healthy. And presidents throughout time have released a couple things. They've released their tax returns, not Donald Trump, and they've released their medical records, not Donald Trump. And look, the MRI is one thing, but I think what's most concerning about this is, as your viewers out there are listening, has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for, as he says? So look, it's clear the president's fading physically. I think the mental capacity, again, ranting, crazily at midnight on Thanksgiving about everything else. There's reasons for us to be concerned. This is a guy that randomly says the airspace over Venezuela is closed. He's ruminating on if you could win a nuclear war. Look, this is a serious position. It's the most powerful position in the world. And we have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. And at the same time, he's not solving any of the problems. So I'm deeply concerned that he is incapable of doing the job.
They asked released about my MRI. So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect. But if you want to have it released, I'll release it.
Yes, please. Can you tell us what they were looking at?
For what, releasing?
No. What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing.
Most of you by now have heard that Trump had an MRI done last month in October. 6 months prior, he had a physical. And here recently, Governor Tim Walz out of Minnesota came out on his social media and said, release the MRI results. And I'm like him, yeah, release them. If there's no issues, release them. But yesterday, on Sunday, Trump was asked about those MRI results and what he had the MRI done on. He said he didn't know. And by the way, this question was asked by a female journalist from CBS. He said he didn't know, but he certainly knew that it was not on the brain because he had a cognitive test where he received a perfect score, or as he called it, a perfect mark. Which then he turned around and told that female journalist she would be incapable of passing a cognitive test. At what point will these female journalists just stop asking him questions? Because if they're not going to just match his same energy and give it back to him, then why keep asking him questions? No one is speaking up for those female journalists. They just let it slide. Because at this point, the insults are just becoming the norm. He's going to continue to do it if they don't speak up. Yeah, crazy.
Go ahead and tell me that this doesn't look like someone who had a perfect MRI. Well, we're all about to find out what Trump's MRI was for, including Trump, and I'm so glad for him. I mean, look, he even has to have his little name on his shirt. On his way back to DC, he told a reporter that, of course, he'd be willing to release the MRI report because it was perfect. He also went ahead and said that he has no idea what it was on, but it was perfect and it wasn't his brain because he aced a cognitive test. And then, of course, because the reporter was a woman, he went on to say that there's no way that she could possibly ace a cognitive test. Seriously? Because she's a woman and she asked a question? Wow, they give those tests to people they're concerned about, dear. And darling, this photo is concerning. I mean, I'm so glad that you are going to be finding out what the MRI was on, even if it wasn't your brain. You should really know as a patient what the doctors are looking for. I mean, there's something called informed consent. So if you weren't informed, there had to be a reason. And it's usually because there's some sort of cognitive impairment or, they're not in a good state of mind or able to consent to a procedure. So you know what? I'm really glad we're all going to be finding out together.
We have some news right now. Questions about Donald Trump's mental acuity continue to be raised this morning by doctors and others across the internet after Donald Trump himself said he did not know which part of the body his MRI examined. He said that he would release the MRI because it was as perfect as the perfect phone call that got him impeached. But when you go in for an MRI, the doctor tells you what they're examining. Trump says he doesn't know. And while Governor Tim Walz continues to push this idea that the MRI results should be released, that there's something that's not fully okay with the president, and a number of other folks across the internet are doing the same. But it does beg the question, when you go in an MRI machine, you know what they're scanning, whether it's your chest, your back, your brain, right? And yet the president's saying that he doesn't know.
This morning on Meet the Press, Governor Tim Walz demanded that Donald Trump's MRI results be released to the public, claiming that Trump is obviously physically fading and that we have a right to know what's going on. Yeah. What the governor was referencing there was Donald Trump's absolutely unhinged Thanksgiving Truth Social post. It's his usual nonsensical, grievance-filled diatribe, putting his incredibly brittle, narcissistic ego on full display. But in this post, he called Governor Walz the R-word. This is what the president of the United States, who should be the most dignified member of our government, the representative of this country, this is what the president of the United States is doing on Thanksgiving, posting hate-filled screed against his political enemies using slurs and just spouting absolute nonsense. Myself and plenty of other folks have been saying for months and months and months that there is a glaring contrast, a glaring inconsistency between how corporate legacy media chose to cover Joe Biden and any perception that he might be aging, might have some cognitive issues, might be struggling physically, and how they are choosing to willfully ignore a vast quantity of evidence about Donald Trump's obvious decline. Now, this photo from this morning, Sunday, November 30th, was leaked. This is Donald Trump at his golf resort, looking just absolutely terrible. The claim was that he was nodding off in that photo, and that would not be the first time that Donald Trump has been caught napping in the middle of the day. Let me just put a really quick montage together of just a few instances between April and now.
I asked that with trepidation, only because you read a lot of the material now out of Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman is saying we need a resolution on a Palestinian state.
A fraud war room using this kind of technology because we'll know who you are and who your doctor is. We can block this. We're going to have remarkable advances in how consumers can use their own records. We'll have beneficiaries be able to get MAHA advice and prevention.
Linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future.
He's literally falling asleep standing up.
I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance.
They used about 20 acres and had a fence that had been there since 19.
This is during a MAHA briefing. These are all standard press briefings and news conferences in the middle of the day. And time again, the President of the United States cannot stay awake. But even more than that, we've seen how over the last several weeks, Donald Trump is no longer standing in press conferences. He's seated. Zoran Mamdani, right, like a fragile narcissist, is remaining seated while Zoran Mamdani is standing over him. It's because Donald Trump cannot stand for any prolonged length of time. He's had multiple physicals this year. His diatribes, his speeches have been far more rambly. He has significant gait issues. If you don't watch the Daily Beast's YouTube channel, you might want to. They've had a whole long series talking about Trump's very obvious cognitive decline and the very real concerns that clinicians have that he has dementia and is not fit to be running the United States of America. I mean, there's so many reasons that he's not fit to be president and running the United States of America, but let's just focus on this one issue, his cognitive decline and concerns about his health. And let's not forget, there was a piece out this past week in the New York Times. It was entitled "Shorter Days, Signs of Fatigue, Trump Faces Realities of Aging in Office." Trump became so emotionally dysregulated over this New York Times piece because, one, fragile narcissists cannot handle any criticism of them whatsoever. They need to be universally adored. And any perceived narcissistic injury is going to result in them lashing out in really cruel ways. But also because he doesn't want people to know, one, he doesn't want to face the fact that he has cognitive decline. He doesn't want to face the fact that he is a 79-year-old man and he doesn't have that much time left. That mortality is catching up with him, that his body is wearing out, that he is experiencing the dwindles. And because of that, he was so angry over this New York Times piece that he called Katie Rogers, the White House correspondent for the New York Times, a third-rate reporter who is ugly both inside and out and has been assigned to write only bad things about me. Trump has claimed he doesn't know why he was given MRIs multiple times this year. He also tried to claim that cognitive tests that were administered to him were IQ tests, and they proved that he's much smarter than AOC. Like, that's not what the MoCA test assesses. It's not an IQ test. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't want people talking about his health. He doesn't want people to perceive him as frail and weak and aged. Right, all things that he clearly is, and at the same time, the folks who are behind the scenes running him, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, Project 2025, Russell Vogt, et cetera, they don't want you talking about Donald Trump's cognitive decline. They don't want the press talking about it. They don't want Republican politicians talking about it. They are perfectly content to give Donald Trump the White House ballroom project, right? I said in the past that that's like when you have a dementia patient, and in order to keep them from becoming agitated, you often give them like a baby doll to hold and take care of, or you give them a basket of washcloths to fold. It's a distraction. It's something meant to pacify them and keep them from becoming agitated. I think that's what this White House ballroom project is for Donald Trump, because he's always been enamored with ballrooms. This is something that absolutely he can put all of his energy into while Stephen Miller and everybody else are, doing all of the nasty, insidious things behind the scenes, which is why Trump often seems so checked out. He doesn't know which crypto, Bitcoin, billionaire felon was pardoned because he didn't have any say in that. He didn't do anything except, have somebody auto-pen it. Because not only has he never had any interest in governing at all, but at this point in time, he's no longer capable of calling the shots and running the show. But they still need him as a figurehead, right? Because it is Donald Trump who holds the cult of MAGA together. It is a cult of personality. It is not a cult of an idea. Stephen Miller cannot hold that cult together. Russell Vogt cannot hold that cult together. And God knows J.D. Couchfucker Vance cannot hold that cult together. So I think Tim Walz is right to push on this issue because we have a right to know. The American people have a right to know a man with the nuclear codes, a man who is running the wealthiest country on earth, a man who is wanting to wage war against other countries, a man who wants to start wars of aggression against other countries, is clearly in very poor health, clearly has serious cognitive concerns, clearly has the dwindles. It is absolutely not something that we should be ignoring, the press should be ignoring, politicians should be ignoring. We need to address it. I hope more folks will join Governor Walz in demanding that Donald Trump's MRI results be released. I hope more folks will start speaking up and say, what the hell? Like, we can all see what's going on. We need to address this for the good and the safety of this nation, for our global safety, for the well-being of the American people. We have to address this issue. Because this frail, addled old man, who, by the way, has spent $70 million of our taxpayer dollars so far this year golfing, this is the man who is in charge of the United States of America, or is being used by other folks behind the scene who are actually running the United States through him. It is entirely appropriate and reasonable and necessary for Donald Trump's MRI results to be released, for his diagnoses to be released, for the American people to know what's going on. I'm glad Governor Walz was willing to say it. More folks need to join him immediately.
Governor Walz asked you to release MRI records.
Will you tell us what it was
Governor Walz, you mean the incompetent governor? So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect.
What was the were they
It's like my phone call where I got impeached. It's absolutely perfect.
It sounds to me like Donald Trump is admitting tonight that his MRI results were far from perfect because, as we all know, his 2019 phone call with Zelensky was quid pro quo, which is not a perfect phone call. He asked him to do him a favor first before he would release the $400 million that Congress had appropriated for Ukraine. The next part of the clip is just crazy. He starts insulting journalists and then seems to lose his train of thought when asked what the MRI was studying.
If you want to hear about it or if you want to release it, you want to have it released. News Nation, failing News Nation. News Nation is doing lousy, by the way. But if you want to have it released, I'll release it.
Can you tell us what they were looking at?
For what, releasing?
No. What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea.
Okay, that guy's actually our president. Shit. Okay, so the reporter asked him, what were they looking at? He's like, for what, releasing? What are you talking about? No, the MRI, what was it looking at? Oh, I have no idea. Okay, we're in good hands. It got worse, though.
Just an MRI, what part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing. Goodbye, everybody. You too.
Yeah, that was Trump insulting two female reporters, saying that he thinks they're incapable of passing a fucking dementia test. This is on the heels of Trump recently insulting three other female reporters, calling one stupid, one ugly, and saying quiet piggy to a third. And remember, this clip started when a reporter asked Trump about Tim Walz asking to see Trump's MRI results after Trump called Tim Walz the goddamn R word. Are you fucking kidding me? That there is still a single fucking person on this monster's side.
Time for Donald Trump to put up or shut up and do something every president has ever done. He needs, since Nixon, he needs to release his medical records, including the MRIs, including the bone spurs, and his tax returns. Let me go there. Donald Trump has not, as every other president and major presidential candidate, have released their medical records and their tax returns. Donald Trump, you say you had MRIs and you don't know what they're for. Well, they are for very specific reasons, and we want to know. We need to see your medical records. I agree with Governor Tim Walz and others that have been calling for the release of his medical records. We need to see it because his health, certainly we all can see what we see on the news and on the video, and it has changed. Let me just put it that way. We can see a difference. We need to know. We need to know his true condition. Who is really signing? He said this pardon for several of these people. He didn't know that what he signed. He didn't know the people. Well, who signed the pardon? Donald Trump. Who's signing all of these? Auto pen doing it? You know, I remember how you said supposedly Biden was doing it. It seems like you're doing an awful lot of that. And those bone spurs that you supposedly had as a teenager that got you out of Vietnam, well, if you had bone spurs then, you'll have bone spurs now. They are permanent. They don't go away. So they'll still show up if you had them. So I'd like to see that. And then those tax returns. Remember, Donald Trump never did release those tax returns because he was under audit under the IRS. Donald Trump, that's been 10 years or more. We need to see the tax returns. We need to see all of the things that any other presidential candidate and president will release. It's time that you actually do the things everybody else does. It's time for you to start becoming somewhat ethical and moral along the same lines of any other president in the history of this country. What do you all think? Love to hear from my Democrats and my MAGAs and my crazies and my cuckoos and my burned out light bulbs. Release the medical records and release the tax returns.
The MRI, because President Trump yesterday said that he would release the results of his MRI. Is that happening right now?
It is happening right now. As part of, and this is a summary from the president's physician, and we will release it right now. I think my team has it teed up for all of you. I'll read it for you, and then you'll get it physically as well. As part of President Trump's comprehensive executive physical, advanced imaging was performed because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. The purpose of this imaging is preventative, to identify any issues early, confirm overall health, and ensure the president maintains long-term vitality and function. President Trump's cardiovascular imaging was perfectly normal. No evidence of arterial narrowing impairing blood flow or abnormalities in the heart or major vessels. The heart chambers are normal in size, the vessel walls appear smooth and healthy, and there are no signs of inflammation or clotting. Overall, his cardiovascular system shows excellent health. His abdominal imaging is also perfectly normal. All major organs appear very healthy and well perfused. Everything evaluated is functioning within normal limits with no acute or chronic concerns.
Sometimes we can't help, even us, the observers and the people that report on these things, when we see quite a number of circulating videos that are literally not AI generated, right, of the president and what he's doing and what he's saying, and you wonder if he's really okay now. Yes, he's one of the oldest presidents to actually be serving as the United States president. Is definitely aging, and that would also mean that his own physical health also keeps declining day by day. We saw his swollen ankles and all of that, and now the way he literally walks in zigzag, like he literally can't walk in straight line. So it kind of creates a lot of doubts and questions in the minds of Americans, and they demand for transparency, rightly so, because if you are the president, you must be transparent to the people that you are leading, so at least they know everything that concerns you and all of that, much as it's not mandatory that he has to release these details about himself. But yes, it is required or recommended that, you know, if the public requests and demands for this has to be given to them. Now, I had to ask questions like how many times do, you know, the presidents go through these mandatory routines throughout the year? And from the look of things, it is, you know, suggested that a president goes through, you know, whatever medical routines once a year. And from the look of things, Trump has had more than one, you know, medical check routine. And the first one, a lot of people were speculating a lot of things, and rightly so. Again, the results that came out, it showed that he has some issues with the vein, whatever, I think, I don't remember the name of the disease. But yes, even this time, people are wondering, why did he go to have to do that whatever MRI test? And then he's talking like he doesn't have any idea what that means at all. I recently had an MRI on myself too, so at least I have an idea of what I am talking about, and I know the specifics of what they were looking for. You know, I think there's a time I wasn't really feeling so well. My breathing was bad, and I had just so much back pain and all of that, and some chest pain. So I had to do that as well. It was required that I do that, and thank God nothing was found. I'm okay. However, I have what they call ulcers. So most of the times when they release acid in the stomach, sometimes it causes that, you know, irritation and extreme pain in your back and sometimes in your chest. But I'm under medication, and so I knew why I was, you know, going through this, and it is expected of the president of the United States as well to know why is he going through this. Or maybe the people that watch over him, I think this raises questions like maybe even himself, he doesn't know when he's okay or he's not. So people literally have to figure out if he's okay or not, and they be like, okay, let's take you for this. Okay. And then on top of that, the way he answers certain questions and attacks people and calls them fake news, insults women, to be honest, is getting out of hand. I don't know if that is okay, because I've never even seen a president of Uganda insulting news people that are asking him questions. Now I can say that the president of Uganda can be extremely direct, especially when, he's not okay with some of the things that the media throws his way or whatever, but especially Western media, honestly. He can be quite direct, but I feel like when it comes to Trump, that is not being direct. That's being very disrespectful to people that actually studied to be who they are, and they are there professionally, and they are respecting you as a president. They are asking you these questions not as a way of an attack, which I feel like that is exactly how he views them. He thinks they are attacking him. He thinks they have a problem with him. He thinks they are trying to find something wrong with him, when in actual sense, there's just quite a lot of questions that be raised, that these people get these questions and address them, because at least they can reach him direct than the public. All right. So he keeps insulting and disrespecting women. And then I don't know if you remember that he actually pardoned one of the notorious drug trafficker, or I think of Honduras, right? And they asked him, about that very incident, and he talks about how he doesn't know who they are talking about. There's so many times when they ask him about something that he speaks about, and then he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He acts like he doesn't know what he's talking about. So we could probably assume that he's either trying to deflect and gaslight people and give people, doubts about him, or maybe indeed there is something wrong. We can all agree that he might be undergoing through certain, medications, because we saw his cankles and ankles, kind of swollen. And, there's just quite a lot of things that people can notice, all right? But from the results that have been released, you have seen that the lady, Caroline Levitt, I think she read of how he's perfect, which means any MRI that was done, it was supposed to be imaging of his heart, because it is involving vascular veins and stuff like that. That's what I heard. Hopefully I have it all together right. That means it was related to his heart. Now, one thing that I forgot to say, though, is as much as probably someone suggested that he should do it, all right, if indeed there's nobody that suggested for this to be done, then that means there's a condition that triggered something that the medics had to look at that particular, because there's no way. This is a very specific test, okay? Much as we need to know, yes, the heart of the president is doing good and all of that, his health is all good, right? But there's definitely, if at all there's nothing, I'm not just trying to speculate anything. If at all there's nothing that really triggered it, it was just a normal routine check, well and good. I feel like that wouldn't even be a problem for them to release this MRI. And I have a question for you guys that are watching. Do you think probably that these results might have been manipulated and they are giving you the picture of how he's doing good? Because I think he is super afraid of letting people know that he's not doing good, all right? Because the time you actually confuse an MRI with a cognitive test, okay, with, an intelligence test, an IQ test, that even as well creates questions. And I think let's not also forget, by the time you also go through the cognitive test and IQ test, that means they are trying to actually check if you can function well. And those tests normally are given to old people or to people that are, declining. And from the look of things, people are saying that he himself looks like he has dementia and it's getting worse each and every other day. But the demands have been put out there, and looks like they responded and gave you what they think you probably might like. I don't know who believes these are the right ones, but hey, regardless, I think they have answered. I want you guys to let me know what you think. Do you think this man is not as well as he thinks he is? Because that's the possibility as well, that maybe he's definitely afraid something might happen, and that's why they keep taking him and rushing him over and over and over. Yeah, I just want you guys to let me know what you think, because I think I have yapped a lot already. I love you guys, and I'll see you in another amazing video. Just do me a favor, like the video, and yeah, put those thoughts in the comment section. I'll see you guys later. My name is Gracie. May God watch over you, protect you, and provide for you and your loved ones. Till then, bye.